Episode 161. Today we're asking the question, are you too attached to your business? We're going to get started right now.
We're a man down. Share us out.
Episode 161. I am not Nick Good. He is in New York right now.
New York City.
I'm very, very jealous.
I'll be there in 3 weeks.
Will you, Will? Well,
Yes,
speaking
sir.
of New York, I am jealous that he's there, but I did get to see Aaron Judge's 60-second home run in person last night.
That was a big deal for you.
Super
That was a big deal for you. Where do we come down on whether or not that's a record or not? Baseball nerds unite.
Oh, well, it's obviously an AL record. It's a Yankees record, so
Sure.
that's good enough for me. I have so many thoughts about the steroid era.
Barry Bonds 100% juice, correct?
Oh, they've admitted. Both of them.
Right.
Yeah.
McGuire, Sosa, and Barry Bonds have all admitted
So outside
it
of
now.
Judge, Maris, and Ruth, we have nobody who's not
did it
juiced
clean.
who's ahead of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that counts.
I think, and look, if the baseball writers are going to say we're not going to vote these people into the Hall of Fame ever because we think they juice, and then I'm supposed to just act like I didn't hear that, baseball's got to figure it out.
Yeah, you can't allow
I'd rather
your-
the writers go away, in all honesty, and we just admit what happened and we let everybody in.
Well, here's the thing.
I'd rather do that.
I was always on the side of steroids are cool. Like, if you're a professional athlete and you know the consequences, like, we let people smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol. Like, what are you talking about?
Can't the people in Mr. Olympia aren't steroids allowed?
Like,
Or maybe they have a clean version of it?
they don't really have a clean version. They're
No, they
supposed
don't really
like
check for
Mr.
it.
Yes, I'll say Mr. Olympia is supposed to be the clean version, and they like purposely have.
I
the
thought
loosest regulations.
giant Jay Cutler. Right? There's two Jay Cutlers in this world, right?
Yeah.
There's Jay Cutler for the bear.
One of them's
Bears
got a
who
great
smokes
arm, and one of them's
cigarettes.
got big arms.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then the other guy like pumps steroids. So it's like,
oh, those guys are all admittedly juiced.
yeah.
But
they're
here's
all
the
Mr.
thing.
Olympias.
I think the record should count.
Ronnie Coleman.
But you should also allow Aaron Judge to start doing steroids.
I
And
saw
then
this thought
He'll hit
process
150
today.
home runs.
I saw this thought process. Yeah, I mean the guy swings a telephone pole for a bat, so he's going to hit a lot of home runs.
Exactly.
Like, what are we talking about? Whatever. Everybody just ejected. For those of you not watching live, we start talking about baseball, and people are like, "Fuck this."
I honestly, these are my Wednesdays where I just get to talk with my friends. I don't even care if you guys watch this show anymore. And I'm so enjoying this. Anyway, not as much as I'm enjoying that hard shell protection from Armadillo Home Warranty. Make sure you go talk to Theron Smith over at armadillo.one/tour TORE. The great folks over at Armadillo. They cover all of our listings and most of our buyers. They're awesome, awesome, awesome. For the mortgage side, make sure you check out MortgageMikeOfTexas.com. That's Michael DeBacker, also known as Mortgage Mike, the best lender in Texas, and creeping his way into the Oklahoma market as well. So make sure. Speaking, we're going to his house on Saturday for OU Texas, and I am relatively nervous about that because we are bitter rivals in that regard. Speaking of bitter rivals, that's a weird segue.
That is.
Homeward Property Management.
We hate all the other property management companies. F you guys.
Make sure you go check out homewarddfw.com for all your property management needs. Dana Wynn over there, our president and main property manager, is just a killer over there, and the portfolio of properties under management is growing, and we're doing a great job over there. So make sure you send your referrals that way. We are talking today. I really love this topic because I think we're going to explore a lot of things. Kelderman kind of came up with this, but I think that this is a really great question to sort of ask ourselves right now for a couple of different reasons. The market is shifting. I believe there's more opportunity to take territory and market share and listing inventory right now than at any point in the last couple of years. And it's also true that this is a market that is going to require massive action on the part of the operators, and a lot of people are still struggling, I think, to find that groove. And we're looking around for reasons to go, this is why I'm not where I want to be at the beginning of Q4. And I think it's an important question to ask ourselves. Are you too attached to the outcomes in your business? And what does that even mean?
Look, I think there are a million cliches that we could attach to it. I had this visual when this was asked of me about a couple of things, of me trying to hold, like, you know how when you see those bags of sand on the road that are intended to like re-divert water or whatever, just those cheap ass bags of sand.
Right.
And they're like made out of whatever that like plastic material is that's been driven over or whatever, and it starts to bust up a little bit, but it's not fully busted up. Like, I envision myself like the more tense I get in my business and the more scared I get and the more fearful I become of the deals that are going to fall apart, the outcome of the phone calls, the difficult conversations, the tighter I squeeze what is already kind of a broken bag of sand. And in that process, I'm squeezing out any opportunities that I may have, right? Like I'm finding myself a lot kind of in this season of life, looking at a lot of things that and reevaluating, and I've said this on the show before, for years I thought that in order to be friends with you and Nick, it meant I had to keep pace with you guys financially. And I realized that while you guys are amazing people for me to chase, we all have different financial goals on where we want to be and where we all want to end up as old men, right? And how we want to spend the current time, right? And I think it's well documented that I'm probably the most I don't know, lax when it comes to that type of like long-term planning.
Free flowing.
Yeah, it's free flowing. But what I found is like I was getting really tense around an outcome that I did not give a shit about. Because it had nothing to do with whether or not what you and Nick were doing. It was my perception that I couldn't go the same places that you guys when you wanted to go. It was my perception that I wouldn't be allowed in the same rooms or be worthy of conversations with people in those scenarios, right? Yeah. And I got way too attached to what I thought the business was going to do and how it was going to make me feel. And I realized at the end of the day that like I was kind of already succeeding at a level that I was personally comfortable with. And for me to move to the next level, I needed to relax a little bit because I didn't want to stop just where I was. Well, I still wanted to wealth plan for the future. I want to leave a legacy. I want to do all those things we talk about we can do, right? But I realized that I was never going to be able to do that if all I was worried about was how much I was personally going to be able to do to stay caught up with the people around me who weren't even asking me to stay caught up with them. Right? They were totally comfortable with where I was at and what I was doing when I was functioning as the best version of myself. But because I was so attached to the outcome, then all of a sudden other versions of you start showing up. You start failing in certain areas, start trying to overcompensate in some other areas. And then next thing you know, like you're not even playing baseball anymore. You're like on a football field and you're doing shit that you had no intention of doing. And it sounds like a weird outcome of being like attached to things too much. But that's exactly what happened to me for like a year and a half.
You're just all of a sudden in this race that nobody else knows you're in and you didn't even ask to be there.
Nobody was even running it with you either, right? Like you start chasing all of this stuff. And I think like getting really attached through Project U and all this stuff, I think, Nick was why I thought of this today. Nick's in New York, right? Nick is one of these people that I very much fundamentally believe the people in his life are the most important people to them, and they get 100% of his attention. So when Nick decides to do something that takes himself away from those things that drive whatever it is forward from him, and sometimes it is financial. Those relationships are business related at times. He does not hesitate for 1 second to go do that thing. And this is not to shit on Nick. And sometimes he'll even forget to tell you.
Yeah.
Right? But it has nothing to do with where you rank on his list. It has to do with the fact that this is a thing that needs to be done to move him and the people closest to him forward, and that's what's going to happen next. Nick is so unattached to the outcome, and I bet he probably doesn't even believe this about himself, but to me, he is so unattached to the outcome that he is living a life that I would love to live, right? Where money flows to me through the opportunities that I create for myself by not sitting around and caring how much stuff flows to me. I'm just doing the right thing all the time, and that shit will work out over time.
Here's exactly what you're saying, and I fucking love this, dude, because this is why this podcast works so well, is because you have such an amazing way of saying prompts that are super relevant in your world, and then I think I do a relatively good job of starting to apply them of ways that can be like relatable
For
to
sure.
and like in the real estate business especially.
Definitely.
Right? So like where I think this shows up, do you agree that this is kind of an exact recreation of how, let's just say, residential real estate agents, is this not exactly how they create their unit goal for the year? Is they've decided, for the most part, they've decided, and this is so perfect for right now because it's October, and this is when we do our business planning clinics usually for next year. Like, they've decided to put themselves in this race that no one else even knows they're in, nor do they care whether that person is in the race with them. And they haven't even figured out why they're running the race yet. And what I mean by that is, like, how many times have you heard an agent go, I got to sell 50 units next year, right? And I can tell you, we both have from being in so many coaching sessions. And then we go, why? And then the why starts to fall apart somewhere along the way, right? Yeah. And I say that because this is actually really, really, really important. When we're talking about being attached to the outcomes in your business, we get so attached to the outcome rather than getting attached to the activities that we need to do to achieve the certain outcome. And what you'll start to realize is when you start to attach yourself to the actual activities, what you need to do in your business to succeed, you'll realize that the outcome itself, two things happen. That outcome becomes a foregone conclusion over a long enough time horizon. And two, the outcome changes because your world opens up. You know what, if that makes sense, right? Like your outcome from just busting your ass in your business every day, not making excuses, not getting past your limiting beliefs, doing the things and showing up and putting in the work, what you'll realize is that that unit goal that you had that was like so fundamentally important to you, you realize that that might not be important, and a million other opportunities might have opened up for you because you've showed up and done the work every day. But what we do is we make this arbitrary goal, and then we spend a lot of our time in our mind and even maybe out loud talking about what's sidetracking us this week from reaching that goal, why we didn't show up and do the activities, why we didn't put in the work. And it's like we almost try harder to make excuses for why we're not just showing up and putting in the work than we do to actually work towards this arbitrary goal that we put forth. And if we had any sort of semblance of a real attachment to why we were doing these things and brought it from the hypothetical into the realistic, you'd realize that like it's not the unit or the money goal or whatever you're chasing. It is a future version of yourself that you haven't fundamentally become emotionally attached to yet, or you haven't fundamentally believed yet is a possibility. And so you're not allowing yourself, you're not allowing yourself the latitude to go, if I don't do X, I don't get Y, because the unit goal is not the Y. And you've developed that number because everybody else has big goals. Well, everybody else is not who you're racing against. You're racing against time and you in your own future.
Here's what I think happens. This is weird that this just came up because I was literally just at my barber, and he is at the point where, and this is the point that all real estate agents get to, where they freak out and they typically stop if you're somewhat successful. You start having clients that you need to hand off. Even if it's just to a transaction coordinator, you've got to start handing off parts of the process to somebody else. So my barber is in the process of needing to bring somebody else on. He has too many appointments. He's working Saturdays and Sundays. He's the sole, we all know this as an entrepreneur. You are an employee of yourself. Like, you don't really have any free time. You tell everybody you're the CEO of Matt Kelderman Realty. You're really not, right? I'm an employee of all the people who need me to do something for him. He's at that point where he's got to start relying on somebody else to take actual humans over that could affect his Google reviews, right? Like, you talk about real world, starts affecting your Google reviews. How many people go out there and say nice things about you? If you procure people from Facebook, like now they start talking shit about you on Facebook or something, right? Like, so there's real repercussions of bringing on the wrong person. He interviews this guy. They come up with a time for him to show up. The very first day the guy's supposed to show up, he doesn't show up. He calls that morning and he's like, hey man, I'm just wondering, can we actually move the hours to evening? And this is like the day of, right? We've talked about this before. The people who like call the time at the time they're supposed to be there.
They were already supposed to be there.
And they're like, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it. I'm like, no shit, bro. It's 11.
You told me 2 hours ago.
It's freaking 2 in the afternoon. You were supposed to be here at 1 and it's 2. Like, I know you're not showing up, right? Or calling right when you're supposed to be there and be like, I'm not going to make it, right? Like, my whole point is like, so he brings this guy on, this guy, immediate red flag about what he's going to do. And this is the interesting part of it. And this is where I think we as real estate agents do this to ourselves all the time, because we are the employees of ourselves. And this is a conversation that happens in our brain. We start making excuses. That guy immediately started telling him, you know, man, I'm really new and I don't want to bring your business down. And I think it's just probably best if I just wait until I get a little bit more experience before I come and join you, because you really seem like you got your shit together, right? Like, how many agents, or how many times have you told yourself this, or even us in a leadership position have heard agents come to us and be like, you know, you guys are really kind of like, and by the way, we don't have shit figured out, by the way.
No
but
one
I'm just
does,
saying, because this is not like a humble brag. I'm saying like, you know, you guys are growing at a certain rate or whatever, and I just don't want to come in and slow those things down. All I hear is somebody saying one of two things. They're really, really scared and don't really understand what's coming next, which can be a very innocent thing, but also can take you out of this industry as fast as anything else.
100%.
Or you're a flake and I don't want to be in business with you, right? So I think that the next thing to ask that employee, or if you are the employee yourself, to ask that person is am I just scared? And if you are just scared, then I'll go back to what I said last week. You are not starving to death. You have a roof over your head. For the most part, you're probably climate controlled most of your day, right? every bit of fear that you have is coming from your own head. And that is exactly what agents are doing. They're getting way too attached to the outcome of a phone call and think it's going to take down their business. Whereas if they just made a phone call or multiple phone calls every single day, there would be no attachment to it. Some of the most successful people I know are done working at 5 o'clock, in bed by 8:30, and go on vacation for 2 months a year. And it's not because they're rich. It's because they wake up at a certain time, they do the same shit every day, they make sure they knock out the stuff, whether they get the results that day or not, they know that over time they're getting the results they want, so they can comfortably go wherever they want to go, whenever they want to go there.
I think that is so, you are hitting the nail on the head. And this is, there's no, I don't think there's no better, I think there's a better time in the last few years than right now to be talking about some of this stuff, because this is exactly the reality that I think real estate professionals that I think are on the bubble in their business right now need to be hearing going into the next few years of how the market is going to be, which, by the way, is an incredibly opportunistic market
for sure,
for people that show up and do the work, right? So we've got to get a few truths established here, right? Selling real estate in America requires two things, and they will never change. It's the ability to speak English and type on a computer. If you can do those two things, you can sell real estate in America. It is that simple, right? And on top of that, where I think that we get really sideways is exactly what you just said before. When we're talking about being attached to your business, the reason that it's your business that we're talking about is because when you get attached to your business, rather than being attached to the life that you want to achieve for yourself, or whatever future reality it is, whatever that, we call it the 70-year-old version of yourself, call it whatever it is, right? It requires you getting out of, succeeding in this business requires you to expand your comfort zone.
100%.
It is also incredibly simple. Do you want to, I can articulate how to build a real estate business from the ground up in less than a minute. You figure out the amount of people that you need in your world to hit your goals. You talk to them about real estate a certain amount of times in order to achieve your goals. You track how many times you need to talk to people in order to do a deal. And then you continue to talk to that many people about real estate until you've done that many deals. It's literally that simple.
Yeah.
And I think that what happens, and we try to embody this
formulaically, it's that simple.
Formulaically, it is that simple. It really is, right? We try to embody that around here with our team a lot. I think that there's two. I was talking to Matt Miali, our business partner today, and this is, we talk about this type of idea a lot, which is so pure and so true. I think there are two things that you need to be able to do to really hone your real estate business in. You've got to buy into the mindset that you need to have, which is selling real estate is not that hard. It is literally talking to people about homes. They're everywhere. It's not that hard to learn. It comes with, and the more that you talk to people, the more you learn, the better experience you get. It's so simple. We're not asking you to bench press 1,000 pounds. We're not asking you to learn to code. Talk to people about real estate. It's very, very, very simple. You do that enough times, you'll be successful. And then two becomes the tactical, right? And the tactical, you got to simplify it as much as possible. I believe really, really, truly in the 12 and 2 model from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I believe that for every 12 people in your database that are solid contacts, you should get 2 deals a year, right? And then the tactics on how to extract those 2 deals a year, that's your business plan, meaning I want to do X, Y, and Z. I need to, be prospecting, my database. Here's how I'm going to interact with them. I'm going to do online leads. I'm going to do whatever. You need to boil that down to a baseline. No matter what my tactics are, I need to talk to this many people about buying or selling real estate every single day. If I haven't done that, then I haven't done my job. Okay. And so we establish these fundamental truths. Selling real estate is not that difficult. It's talking to people about real estate. It's not digging dishes. It's not digging ditches. It's very, very difficult. It's very, very simple, right? And in order to do that, I need to figure out how many people I need to talk to about real estate every day. And then I need to apply a tactical strategy in order to do that. And those tactics can change over time. It's easier if I measure the success. But out of baseline, all I really need to do is figure out how many people I need to talk to about real estate every day to be successful, and then go out and do that no matter what. And what happens is we spend so much time avoiding those truths because they are so simple. And what happens is when you put yourself in a position where you have already accepted that this is possible and that it is relatively simple, you rob yourself of the ability to say, this is why I can't do this.
Awareness is a huge part of it.
It's a huge part
because here's the thing is like the Honey Badger group with Nick at EXP, they have this thing like once you see it, you can't unsee it. You know, they're talking about rev share. I love you guys. It's funny.
Yeah,
and I will say it's the same thing around like awareness. Once you're kind of aware that like this happened to me, there was a time, and this is not currently happening in my career, and like I said, I'll put myself on Front Street for anything. There was a time when Brian used to say, there's nobody who works harder in real estate than me. I know for a fact Brian Force would not say that right now, and it would not be deserved if he did. The reason for that being is like I got to a space where I kind of wasn't so much not interested in real estate. I wasn't interested in the way it made me feel, right? Like I wasn't interested in like there was a time where the hunt and kill part of real estate was super, super attractive to me, right? Sure. And then I started realizing that like I couldn't do this much work and still kind of enjoy myself. And so then I thought I was doing it for the wrong reasons. And then I talked myself out of it. And the one thing that was never, ever clear that I had to get really clear on was I didn't have, and it's going to turn into a conversation about your big why, and I don't mean it to, but this was never about like anything that made Matt particularly happy. I've said this on episodes past. I haven't said it for a long time. I need a relatively small amount of things for me to be happy. If it wasn't for the fact that I had a son and other people in my life and other people I wanted to hang out with, Matt actually would just like, and I'll say this before, he would just go get a bunch of really fun things to enjoy that makes his brain different and play World of Warcraft until he died. Right? Like I'm not like this incredibly ambitious person when it comes to like, I need to have all these things for myself. And so I thought that mattered. And then I had a kid and I thought that mattered. Yeah. Right? I thought so much that like, well, now I have a kid. That's the reason you do everything. You have a child, right? Well, not for me particularly. Like I'm going to go and be the best dad I can be regardless of whether or not I have money or clients to work with or whatever. If anything, I'd probably cost myself a bunch of money trying to be the best dad because I'll just blow some stuff off to go be a dad, right? And I used to have so much guilt and shame around that particular thing, right? Like, so then it made Luke not the thing that made me want to go to work. Yeah. The only thing that made me kind of want to start doing this was no longer caring about it. Sure. You know what got me reinvigorated to start calling expireds? Not caring whether or not they said yes or no. Sure. Like when I got to a point where I had realized that through COVID, my business had morphed into a very client-based business to where I wasn't out there doing the difficult things anymore. What I realized was as soon as I eliminated that really difficult thing, then the next difficult thing on my list that wasn't difficult to begin with became more difficult as it was the most difficult thing when it really wasn't. And so then I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop doing that. And what happens is you move down this ladder of things that actually become easy. And in your mind, because they're the hardest thing you're doing, and I hope everybody's tracking with me because I'm just talking nonsense right now. Oh, yeah. But as you move down the scale of difficult things, the things that aren't difficult become harder. Sure. And so you start opting out of easy shit at some point on the rung. And I got to a point where I was opting out of easy shit. Yeah. I was opting out of communication. Yeah. I was opting out of an opportunity to talk to somebody who wanted to do a deal like that. Like those golden goose deals that we're all talking about, like somebody just write an offer, right? Like, hey, I want to write an offer on this place. All of a sudden I'm just confused and don't know what to do. I got into a place where I was doing so many things that were not difficult and just relying on something that I thought I had built that I lost all skills and kind of all direction, right? So I had to get really focused on why I was even doing this. And it sounds weird, and I'm not trying to be intentionally like confusing, but like not caring how the calls come out every morning and doing them live with other people to where people can see it and you're kind of just out there and they can experience your screw ups. It actually makes you evaluate yourself a lot. Like when I have a call in the morning with Livian and I'm doing expired calls and I don't go for an email when I should go for an email, right? I kind of own that as soon as I get off. I'm like, damn, I should have asked that person. Yeah. Right? Just doing the more difficult thing, especially doing it first thing in the day, that turned out to be my big why, which is really fucking irritating because it has to do with work. And I thought for years it had to be some outside thing. And all Matt really needed was to become more confident around how people, because it really is little Matt, right? Like it really is my need for acceptance and my fear of rejection that makes those calls hard. So conquering that actually is something for personal version of Matt. It also just happens to be like really great for my business too. Oh, dude, I mean, and you're not talking nonsense at all. I think you're actually speaking to, you're saying out loud the very real and human experience that most of the real estate professionals in this industry go through. And that is basically the avoidance of asking the question,
how bad do you really want to accomplish your goals? And why do you have goals if you're not going to do the things that you want to accomplish them? And if you are like, what's more important? The story you're telling yourself right now about why this is painful or why you don't want to do it or why it's scary or why it makes you feel awkward or why you're avoiding it, or the future version of your reality that you want to live. And I mean, like, this is such an easy thing to articulate in the sense that, like, we avoid so many simple things. Bringing it back to how simple real estate is, right? Let's say you have a database of 300 people. That's enough to sell 50 units right there. It just is, right?
Yep.
And if I were to ask most agents out there, of your 300 people in your world that have the ability to either do business with you or refer you business, how many of them know what your goal is to serve X amount of people next year? Let's say
I can answer for me. It's zero.
It's zero. Right? And the reason that it's zero for most people, they might not articulate it this way, but the reality is the reason that it's zero for most agents is because that's a conversation that requires you to expand your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And expanding your comfort zone, the caveat is all you need to do to expand your comfort zone, by the way, is speak English or maybe type on a computer. It doesn't change the tactical approach to selling real estate. We still speak English and type on computers, but part of speaking English is articulating your goals to serve X amount of people to the people that could help you. What you'll find when you do that, by the way, is that people are much more likely to help you grow your business if you articulate specifically what it is that you're trying to accomplish and make them a part of your success. People want to help you succeed. It's the law of reciprocity at work. And we do a really great job of avoiding doing that. And a million other tactics, by the way, but I'm just trying to make this as simple as possible. We avoid doing that. We avoid having those conversations on a regular basis. We avoid the tactical nature of this, reaching out to our sphere, articulating our goals, making them a part of our success, and growing our business because of it, because it feels awkward. It feels uncomfortable. It requires us to step outside our comfort zone. It requires us to grow, and growth comes with growing pains, and we avoid those. And so that goes back to the exact same thing we're talking about before. Why are you so attached to your, like, are you really attached to your business? Are you attached to the reality that you're trying to live? And what the reason I say that is because, like, realistically, what is more painful? What is more painful is talking to human beings that you already know, like, and trust, and articulating stuff in plain English. Is that more painful than waking up X amount of years from now and realizing that that's all you would have needed to do to live whatever life you wanted to live? We so avoid those questions. We fucking hate those questions.
Look at it this way, dude, right? Because I think it's really easy for people to look at the future versions of themselves and they say they'll be all right. Like we do this as we age, right?
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, I'm 45, but I still feel 25. And then one day you wake up and your hip hurts and you're like, I'm not, right? Here's the real world part of it that I experienced is that hour and a half that it takes me to do the most uncomfortable thing of my day, which is like the talking to people like that I just don't know. Like, let's just go full on most uncomfortable, whatever it is that you're most uncomfortable, talking to database, whatever. That hour and a half would eat away at me for the other 14 and a half waking hours of my day, and probably turn those 14 and a half waking hours into 18 and a half waking hours because I couldn't fucking sleep, right? Like, my ability to be like, damn it, Kelderman, had you just done that thing from 8 o'clock to 9:30 this morning, you could be sitting here enjoying this beverage, enjoying these wontons from your air fryer, enjoying this freaking whatever it is that now I've doubled down on and be like, I shouldn't even be eating this. I just shouldn't be eating it all. I didn't make any money today, right? Like, if I had just done that thing, even if nothing had come from it, what I know now is that enough things would come from that consistent activity over time that I wouldn't have guilt around how the rest of my day went, because I know I did the most difficult thing, but I was so attached to how it made me feel in that moment, and then I became so attached to how it made me feel for every moment after that I wasn't letting go of shit, because then I became addicted to that kind of melancholy. Yes. And that's a whole other deal.
There's an addiction to your own melancholy is actually the best word for it. It's not exactly depression, right? But it's your own, like, it's your own want for more.
Yeah.
You're addicted to your own, I wish things were different, right? Society trains us to be like this, by the way. Society trains us to thrive off instant gratification. And this is what's interesting about real estate professionals is that we say that we get into this business for a particular reason. It's usually unlimited opportunity or the ability to be our own boss. In one way or another, it's normally the ability to control our own outcomes. We get into real estate to control our own outcomes. We want the ability to create whatever it is that we want to create. And for the most part, then we go and we act in the same way that we would if we were W-2 2-week paycheck employees. Like we need to, if we don't get the results of exactly what it is we're doing right now, we don't like that and we don't want to do it again, right? We need that. I did this, you pay me now. And if we don't get that, we have really, really hard time sustaining our activities. And again, what does a W-2 job require of you? Does it require you to have a vision of what you want your future to look like? Not really. It requires you to be here at 8:30. It's about it, right? And not get fired. And so we mix and match these ideologies in which we want more opportunity, but we want to act.
We want it in a box.
We want it in a box. We want to act like all we have to do is show up and do enough to not get fired. Realizing nobody's going to fire you from real estate. You know what I mean?
It should be mega liberating, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. You have the ability to control your own destiny. And all you have to do, like if you were explaining to an alien what it was that we did in real estate, we talk to people, and then if we talk to enough of them, we make a lot of money. And that alien or whatever asks us, like, why doesn't everybody do that? I'd be like, I don't know either, dude. I have no idea. It seems, why doesn't everybody do that? I have no idea. But then we layer on all of these things that we put in our own way. It feels uncomfortable. I already set my appointment for the day, even though I didn't set any for the last 10 days. So I'm done, right? Like we build up these monsters in our head that keep us from taking action consistently. And I think it's because we're so attached to the right here and right now outcome that if we don't get it, we just avoid doing anything else. And it's what keeps us either from succeeding or keeps us right here at the ceiling of I'm just getting by. So many agents are just getting by. And man, it's frustrating that so many agents are just getting by in an industry that truly requires so little from an actual talent perspective.
I think what ends up happening is that while and here's what I will say, because I look at somebody like Josh DeShong, right, who sells so much real estate. He has like all these businesses, and he's like one of the most innovative people that I've personally ever met when it comes to real estate, right? Like I look at that and his skill set, and I'm not putting myself on Josh DeShong's level. I'm saying his skill set is so different than what if somebody just said like, hey, who do you think sells the most real estate? They're going to say like, oh, the person who talks to the most people and is really gregarious at a party and whatever. Not. I think when we talk about like the skill set aspect of real estate, where people get mixed up the most is, again, they're attached to thinking that it has to be done a certain way. Yeah. Again, he's been around longer than I am. I've heard about him and know him through you guys and all kinds of other stuff. But what he has done and what I have seen him do is always keep his mind open to whatever is happening next, right? And I think as real estate agents, we tend to fall in line with the news that we hear. So you factor in the fact that maybe you've had a rough year. Then you hear bad news about real estate. Then you start telling clients said bad news, and then they start not working with you because of bad news. Yeah. And then you're like, why the hell is my real estate business not that way? It's not a super difficult thought process to change around. You just have to start looking at all of this. Again, it doesn't matter if Jim and Sally or Bob and Susie work with you. It doesn't matter. You can control very, very little things in your real estate day. Focus on only that stuff. And I'm going to tell you right now, almost all of that is probably going to happen before 10 a.m. Sure. Like almost everything you can control is going to happen before 10 a.m., regardless of how much you lead generate, whatever else. Right. If you focus on those things, everything else that you get to be detached from, and this is not an excuse to be passive. I'm not saying do nothing in your business. What I'm saying is like being attached to how the deal falls apart, whether a client makes a wise decision on inspection report, where they call you a month after they close and say, hey, this thing fell apart. It doesn't mean you don't go fix the problem. Mm-hmm. It means that it's not your problem. Sure. And allowing those things to kind of stay separate, I think, makes for a healthy real estate agent.
It sure does. And I actually would even take it a step further that I'm not saying I know you're not saying being passive or to be passive in your business. I would say everything that we do tactically, when you're talking about keeping your mind open and things like that, it all leads back to the same place. One of the things that we have a lot of creative avoidance around, I think, is how simple we can make our business, because when we make it simple and we're not hitting that really simple level, we don't like the way that makes us feel. So we do a lot of things. Creative avoidance is rampant in the real estate industry, right? I mean, that's just the name of the game. It is, right? I just got to get my thing organized, and then I'll really dive in. It's like I got sidetracked because I needed to update my thing and my profile.
I need to tag everybody in my CRM.
Exactly, right. I'm in management mode right now. I really got, and I'm not saying there's not a time and place for those things. What I'm saying is we tend to use those things. We tend to use those lines of reasoning as an excuse not to just do the really, really simple things in our business. You can articulate a real estate business really simply. I'll tell you right now, if you want to sell 100 homes a year, you need to talk to 10 people every single day about buying or selling real estate. It's as simple as that. And then the tactical is, how do you do that? The answer is whatever it takes. And then the whatever it takes can become a million different things. And then over time, this is where the difference between someone like you and someone like Josh DeShong is, right? Like, he might build a bunch of fancy lead generation systems that feed cold leads, that require a lot of nurturing, that they automate a lot of plans for, and then over time it spits out warmer leads and so on and so forth, right? Like, that might be an avenue. There are also the Chris Wises of the world that are only ever going to talk to people that they know, like, and trust. They're going to do it all day, every day, right? And there's everything in the middle. And this is what agents really screw up on, is the only way that I can put this. This is where agents really screw up. They talk tactical before they even understand what it is they're trying to accomplish. And this is a terrible way to build a business. We talk about farming, we talk about events, we talk about Zillow leads, we talk about Google pay-per-click, we talk about open houses, we talk about expireds, we talk about all the different ways to be tactical without figuring out at a very basic level what it is that we actually need to achieve in order to realize our goals and bring our business to fruition. And then there's a whole nother layer of it that is, why are we even trying to bring our business to fruition in that regard? Meaning, like, what really should be our goals, and what is our outcome going to be? What you need to do, and I think you kind of understand where I'm going with this, but I'm going to say it out loud just so you can sort of realize what I'm saying, and hopefully this gets a little bit through to somebody who might be overthinking their business right now. All the tactical stuff will fall into place. Everybody has their own different skill set. There are a million different ways to build a business here. What you need to figure out is how many people you need to be talking to about real estate and giving real estate advice to, or having real estate related conversations with every single day, in order to sell the amount of houses that will help you, that will allow you to build the business that you want to build. And then the simple answer and the simple question become, did you talk to that many people today? Why or why not? Right.
I understand why this conversation gets frustrating for agents, right? Yeah. Because every single thing that we are talking about is true. It is very simple. Mm-hmm. It is talking to people and talking to as many of them as required for you to make the numbers you want. Where real estate agents and I'll even put this on me, where I always tend to get pissed off at this thought process, and you did a great job of breaking it down right there, is, well, okay, cool. I know I need to talk to people. Who do I need to talk to? Yeah. Here's what really needs to be said to every real estate agent. I don't know who the fuck you need to talk to. I don't know who those people are for you, just like nobody knew it for me. That's why I did open houses as much as possible. That's why I kind of dabbled in cold calling people the first couple of years. That's why I paid for internet leads. Yeah. Look, if you think that somebody's going to be able to come along and tell you, like, oh, hey, Brian, I noticed you're this type of person, go do this, and you expect it not to be the same generic crap of expireds, FSBOs, open houses, circle prospecting. Like, if you want it to be something tailored for you, part of being an entrepreneur is understanding who you are and what your skill set is. If you are coming into this business still wanting to be told what to do, you are still an employee. Yeah. You still have an employee mindset, and that's not a bad thing, but just understand nobody has that answer for you. Just like nobody had it for me, just like nobody had it for you. Brian door knocked the hell out of a ton of doors, right? Like, he can talk about that forever, and the only thing that you really need to understand is You didn't want to knock doors. I'm sure Brian didn't want to fucking knock doors. He did it, and he realized it wasn't that big of a deal. He got results from it. He kept doing it. That's the only thing you can do. And the reason agents phase out of this so quick is because they're waiting so long for somebody to come along and tell them what to do instead of start doing crap and weeding stuff out. Start with the stuff everybody tells you to do. If you're not calling expires because that's just not you, okay, cool. If you're not calling FSBOs because it's just not you, fine. If you're not calling open houses because you just don't have the time, okay. If you're not calling circle prospecting people because you don't have the time, cool. If you're not doing digital leads, fine. Guess what? You got to do fucking something, right? Like you can't just go down the line of checking boxes and saying I want to do it differently, or I want to have a Facebook group with 14,000 people in it that I can utilize, or I want to have a mailing list of 5,000 people to just send me deals. You're looking at the end result of a process of somebody who showed up every day and did something they were unsure of. When Chris started her Facebook group, did I think she was nervous about starting it? No, it wasn't an uncomfortable moment for her. It also wasn't what she was hanging her business on.
Yeah, she wasn't saying like, I will do this and then my business will succeed.
For all of you who are just like going out and doing a thing and being like, sweet, socia's set up, business is going to start flowing in. Like, you're missing the entire point, and you're actually not an entrepreneur. You go back to being an employee. My buddy Ed Sutton has an amazing story about him just having a very real conversation with somebody, and I will have it to you for all of the people listening for this who think this might be them. There are going to be people listening to what I'm saying, damn, he's speaking to me, I should get out of the industry. And you shouldn't. You just need to work a little bit harder. And there's some of you thinking, damn, he's speaking to me and I should get out of the industry. And you should. And you need to decide which one of those people that you are. If you know that you have the capacity to work harder, keep plugging away.
Yeah.
If you are at max capacity and still not doing anything, and not able to find a direction, and you've exhausted your resources as far as you know them, eject. It ain't getting any easier. If you don't have the wherewithal to go and find the resources you need, whether that's changing brokers, finding a mentor, the time you need to devote to this industry to actually be successful at it, right? Like, I know there are people who did it for 15 hours a week and blew up. They are the exception, not the rule. You've got to find some space where this taxes
Reggie Jackson
you.
didn't have a hitting coach either.
Yeah,
some people are unicorns.
Where this is going to have to tax you, and if you're not finding yourself doing any of those things, this may not be it, and that's okay. That's okay, but don't find that out too late.
I will also, all right, here you hit the nail on the head, and I will also say, if you have any inclination to truly build a business and be an entrepreneur, there are very few industries on earth that have this type of low barrier to entry and this type of upside potential, where if you can't make it work in this industry because you don't want to put in the work, it's difficult for me, and this might seem harsh, it's difficult for me to imagine a different entrepreneurial pursuit that you would be highly successful at, because
seems like everything else could be way harder.
Real estate's very simple.
Seems like it's going to be way harder.
And I'll actually, this comes from my own personal experience. I'll call back to what you just said. Like, I've been there before. I door knocked thousands of doors my first few years because that was the only type of rejection I could handle. I was just like every other agent. I didn't want to talk to people I already knew because it felt weird. Mm-hmm. It felt like I was the dude they knew from high school or the guy they knew as a bartender, and now I'm like soliciting business and stuff. And
and you know how clueless I am.
Yeah, it took me a long time to expand my comfort zone like that. And so what did I do? I pulled up the hot sheet every day from the MLS, and I just went to the expired's house and I knocked on their doors, and I did it thousands and thousands of times. And looking back, I'm glad that I did that, because it obviously, like, you ever want to become really good at conversations with people that have already raised their hand and then been let down by an agent or not had the experience you want, like, have 1,000 of those conversations, right? And then you'll get good at it. What I'm saying though is, like, I get it, right? Like, I get the idea of overcomplicating a business that is actually at its core very simple, because I did it too, right? And I guess what I'm trying to say here is this is where we have such a gap, I think, between what we say we want out of this business and what we're actually willing to do to get it. You got to think of any other entrepreneurial pursuit. If I was going to start a software company right now, right? Think of any real major company, any real major success story. Like, you don't read the memoir of the founder and you find out that he really only worked from 10 o'clock to 2 in the afternoon every day. And then, like, if he just didn't accomplish what he wanted to do, he just kind of didn't really matter because he didn't have much of a plan, but, like, whatever, and that's how so many agents treat their business. And I guess what I'm saying there is like, when it's so fundamentally simple to succeed, you just have to talk to people. And when it comes from, like, somebody put in the comments there, shift back for a second for me, Jesse, right? Like, this is a great one, right? Come from contribution. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second.
Rebecca, thank you for that.
I think it's Rebecca, because Facebook user is, yeah.
I can see her on mine.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Come from contribution is fantastic, right? This is something that I think that we, maybe we don't do enough. And this is also something that we have such a strange ideology around what we will or will not do for our people in our world. So let's just say I want to sell a lot of homes. This is I'm going to do a small role play for you that I think that is going to sound so strange to a lot of people. And then I'm going to talk about why it sounds strange, right? So let's just say I want to sell 25 homes a year. So I really need like 150 people, solid people in my database, right? If I picked up the phone and called every single one of them on January 1st in the afternoon after they woke up from being hungover, and I said, hey, it's been a while since we chatted. How was your new year? Blah, 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 so on and so forth. Great, right? I just want to let you know that I have a goal to serve 25 families this year, and I depend on the people like you in my world to help me. So who can you connect me with that's looking to buy or sell this year? And if there's nobody, that's totally fine. If it's okay with me, I'm gonna connect with you again every 90 days and continue to ask that, because I rely on people like you in my world to help me be successful, and I want you to share in my success. And we'll do this together. And by the way, since it is January 1st, what's something that I could do for you in your world this year? Does that seem like a really weird thing to say to somebody in your world? Let me give you a hint on how to build a real estate business. You answer to me why that sounds weird. And if you give me a good reason, I'll give you a good reason why you can't be successful in this business. Because here's the thing. That might sound a little bit strange. And by the way, you would never actually say it like that, because human beings have a back and forth banter in their conversations. It wouldn't work like that. What I'm saying is that is the type of thing that agents fundamentally will not do in their own style and in their own way, because that feels strange and they've never done it before. All I just did was a simple role play around how you can share with others your goals and invite them to be a part of your success, which, by the way, people want to be a part of your success. And for 99% of real estate professionals, they'll never pick up the phone and do that. And guess what? You might not hit your goals specifically by doing that, but I guarantee you, if you had 150 people in your world, you have that conversation with them every 90 days, you're selling a lot more than zero. And it just is.
And guess we're going to find out whether it works or not.
Yes,
right? Like,
that's the thing. And if it doesn't take you very long. Go call expireds after.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
Just call somebody.
Right? And that's, I know that we're just like kind of ranting now, but like that. So what's so frustrating about this business sometimes is that you see the people that succeed at a very high level, and they don't do anything strange or different or weird. But like, what is the number one thing that people always ask whenever they talk to a high producing real estate agent? Like, where are you getting your leads? Where are you getting your deals? It's the fucking same place as everybody else. They're just willing to expand their comfort zone and have real conversations consistently with people. And then the answer behind the tactical is, I know how many people I need to talk to every day. And then I've made a commitment that I'm going to do it no matter what. And over time, guess what happens? By trying a lot of different things, you find your groove and the tactics fall into place. They do. For some people, it's only going to be expireds and cold leads. Some people, it's only going to be open houses. Some people, it's only going to be sphere. And you're going to layer on different tactics for your sphere. It's going to be Popeyes. It's going to be events. It's going to be sponsoring stuff. It's going to be PTA. And it all leads back to, these are different mechanisms by which you can talk to people in your world, share with them your goals, make them part of your success, and allow them to be your partners in that success and in your business. That's all you're doing. It's all you're doing with your pie day. It's all you're doing with your Popeyes. You're just engaged. You're just finding new ways to engage with people and have those conversations. But if you're not willing to have those conversations, whether it be with your sphere, whether it be with cold leads, whether it be with open house people, doesn't matter. If you're not willing to have those conversations, it's going to be very difficult to succeed. And bring it all the way home, the only thing you need to be able to do tangibly, like talent-wise, to have those conversations, you need to be able to speak English. And then it's a bonus if you can type on a computer. This business is not that difficult. I would question, if you're not even close to your goals this year, I would question why you have those goals And you got to look at yourself. October is the best time to do it because you still have time to build momentum going into next year, and you have time to hit next year in a dead sprint. You got to ask yourself, truly, how important is it to you that you succeed to a point where that vision you have for yourself becomes a reality, or is it okay with you to just be okay forever? If it's okay with you to just be okay forever, then that's great. I find that there are different forms that people take pain in. They would rather avoid the maybe short-term discomfort of expanding their comfort zone like that, and instead opt for a slow, dull, burning, lingering pain of, I'm not really where I want to be for a long time, and just learn to be just okay. And I want more for the people in this industry. So please hear me. If you want your life and your career and everything you're striving for to be more than just okay, it's that simple, man. You just got to do it. You just got to take action. And the action's not that hard.
I'll give you a little cuddle parent after Brian's tough parent. I see how difficult it is. I see the reasons why you think you can't do it. I understand at the end of the day why it's easy to not be able to envision a future that you don't know fucking anything about. Like, I get it. I understand that. And at some point, you have to count on yourself for a little bit to put your feelers out, put your foot in the water, stick your foot out over the cliff, see if there's really land there. If it's really just a cloud, you're going to fall off like fucking Wile E. Coyote. Like, I get it. It's scary to do. And if you're not willing to kind of put your toe in the water, you're never going to be able to find out whether or not you should have been doing this or doing something else, right? Like that, at the end of the day, I think I understand how difficult it is. I know how hard it is to see a world you haven't lived yet. Like, I struggle with that every day, regardless of what level you're on. There's another level of things you're trying to get to, not even in business, just fucking whatever, right? Like, I wish I journaled and meditated every day. You know how much like content I'd be able to bring you guys if I actually wrote down what happened in my head that might be helpful. Instead, I'm just a scatterbrained cat just running around the house all the time as soon as somebody rings the doorbell, right? Like,
Matthew McConaughey wrote a book about it.
He
Yes.
did, and it's a really great book.
Dang.
And he's such a beautiful, beautiful man.
He is still.
Just know that I understand why all the excuses exist, and they do not matter. They
Brett-
just don't matter.
Brett Caldwell, our old team leader, asked me this a long time ago, and people have asked me since, and it's relatively like well-known question to ask entrepreneurs. What would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail?
Yeah.
And like, I used to push that off a bunch because
It's a hard-ass question to answer, honestly.
it's a really hard question. And one of the reasons I think that I pushed it off for so long is like, it didn't feel real to me because I actually thought that you still could fail.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like, in this business, I think what's so important that I've learned over the years about this particular question is that until you realize that it's actually impossible to fail in this business as long as you're taking action every day, you'll never get the importance of that question.
Yeah.
Because what does it actually mean to fail in real estate? It doesn't mean like you're reaching out to people and they don't refer you business right away, or you're having a lot of conversations with leads that are coming through Google pay-per-click and they don't convert right away, or you're doing open houses every weekend and you're not getting clients right away, or you know, you call expireds and you only convert 1/100th of 1%. Like, that's actually not what it means to fail. But I thought it was, and I think most agents think it is, right? Like, they think like, well, if, you know, what if, like, they don't do it consciously, but subconsciously, one of the reasons we don't take action is like, what if I fail? Meaning like, what if I dive deeper with my database and they think it's awkward for a little bit? Or what if I dive deeper and they don't refer me business right away? Or what if I go door knock and people are mean to me? Like, that's failing, but it's actually not. Do you know what the only failure is in real estate? It's you not showing up for long enough that you don't have a career to show up to anymore. That's the only way you fail. It's you not showing up and doing the work for long enough that you decide real estate is no longer for you. And so that question has become so much more important to me over the years, because the question isn't what would it be like if you couldn't fail? The question is, what would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail? And the reality is that's a powerful question, because when you think about it, if you do anything consistently with intensity and ferocity, It's impossible to fail in this business. People don't fail when they're putting forth consistent, focused, massive effort every day. It's impossible. You only fail due to lack of action. And I love that question now because it's true. What would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail? Well, in real estate, if you just do, you won't fail. You just won't. And I think we need to remember that.
That's good for me. Sorry, whoever we made angry on the show today.
Yeah, we
Oh,
got
sorry.
we got an
an
angry
angry
face, and I'm sorry. Did we say a bad
You're
word?
not gonna-
I don't
probably-
even think. I
probably
think I
cuss.
said the F word.
It might be an accident. Maybe they meant to wow. Maybe our points were so amazing.
I know.
They meant to give us 1,000 wow faces.
They were just so angry they didn't think of it.
And then they just accidentally tapped the wrong one. No, we're
I
sorry
think
we
it
offended
was,
you.
I think it
Sorry
was when
about
you made fun.
I don't know
of,
if I don't know if our hypothetical. I saw this hypothetical you put up. I actually saw one that you posted earlier that comes up
one?
with the conversation that if your kid was a serial killer.
Oh yeah.
Wait, what is this?
I don't know where it was, and I don't know what the rest of it was. I
Hold
saw
on,
the
hold
beginning,
on.
and it said essentially if your kid was a.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Hold on.
It says if your kid was a
little bit.
serial killer, and I don't know the rest of the question, but I definitely think I have an answer for this that
It's,
may make whoever gave us the angry face even more angry.
Like, is he still a kid?
I'll be honest with you. My answer, I don't care how
Okay.
old he is and how responsible he should be as an adult.
Okay.
Because I've made this.
I think it
comment
was on the
before.
last page. I just saw it before you changed pages.
I do like this last one though.
Okay, let's see.
the,
Okay.
This is just
how
riveting
different
television.
would your life have been? If
I
you
saw
had a
the race car bed
growing up.
I saw that, and I will
Dude,
comment
every
on
little
that
boy
one.
wanted one of those.
Here's the thing: is I actually don't think my life would have been any better because I had a water bed growing up, and you couldn't have convinced
Dude,
me
I
that
had a water
anything
bed
was
too.
more rad
That was the shit.
than my blue painted water bed that my dad built, and then we just bought a mattress for it.
I
You
wish-
could have never convinced me that
I
it was
wish,
better than the water bed.
I don't know if they've ever done one, but I wish there was like a blind study on just like you took a group of people that slept on water beds in the 80s and just compared their spinal condition to people that slept on normal beds. I feel like it's just
Why was
so
that a thing
jank.
too? And then like the water bed would be like somewhere more firm than other. Like we're being discerning when we're like
Oh, yeah.
purchasing a water
You're
bed.
already
like,
buying a novelty
my
bed.
back hurts. I really need a firm water bed. I'm going to assume that this question that Jesse's looking for essentially said if your kid was a serial killer, would you like still
No,
go to jail and visit
That's
them?
not
And
it.
It wasn't.
So the question was.
All right, give it to us.
The question was if your child was a serial killer, but they only killed bad people.
Oh.
Other serial killers, murderers.
Dexter already proved that we're all okay with this.
I think
Like
that-
people
yeah.
are like Dexter, like they're really attracted to Dexter. I think they thought that's what they were getting with Dahmer on Netflix, and they're realizing that Dexter was a made up person and Dahmer was really one of the worst humans who's ever existed.
Oh yeah. Like
And people
the
are like, "Oh
worst.
my god, I didn't realize how vile he was." I'm like, "What the fuck part of he ate people
Yeah.
made you think he didn't do horrible things?"
He wasn't like a fun serial killer
Yeah.
cannibal.
Yeah.
Like he was a crazy
He
person.
did what you thought. I thought. Here's the thing: is I think my answer would still stand because it does. Like especially if mine was going to be. I thought it said like if your kid was a serial killer, would you still go visit him and put money on their books? And my answer is yes until the day I die.
That's
Like,
fair.
Yeah.
Forever. I've said this before to people, and I don't hope this doesn't offend anybody who listens to it later. Like Luke just goes last. Like if we're lining up to 7 billion people on this planet and Matt's making decisions, which way on Tinder is go away? I've never
think
seen
it's
it on
left.
Tinder. Is it left? Everybody on this fucking world is getting swiped left on until I get to Luke. Like I'm just sorry. Like I don't like I'm gonna put money on his books forever.
I feel like
Waterbeds
the
were
parent-kid bond is such that's the one
That's
thing.
gonna be
about-
moved, but I only have one, so I can only say that. When other people have
That's-
three
yeah,
or
when
something,
you
they have
got-
to make
what's
a
that,
decision.
little Sophie's Choice.
You're gonna get
Is that
down to
what
like the
that
last.
is?
It's gonna be you and 3 kids, and you gotta swipe
you
left
know,
on somebody.
You know they all have a favorite.
You swiped left on the whole planet.
Yep.
There's
And now it's down to you and your 3 or 4 kids.
There's one thing about
What are you
serial
gonna do?
killers that I've always questioned, and not
Just
the-
one?
Yeah, I mean, of course, a lot. I know. I should say, like the way society views serial killers, and like there's this one common theme with like Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer and all these guys, and like it seems all the time when we talk about serial killers, like the commentary afterwards, like he was just like highly intelligent. So, like. Do we as a society think that there's any serial killer that we have just decided is not intelligent? And I mean that because, like, I don't actually believe it. I don't think every serial killer was a genius. We have this weird romantic thing about serial killers where, like, his IQ was, like, 260. Like, just used it for evil. But, man, he was, like, one of the... That's why he was able to get close to people because he was so smart. Like, you never heard of a serial killer. Like, no, he was super dumb.
Well, here's the
Like,
thing
he
is,
was
I think-
just-
Dumb as a bag of rocks.
I think
Yeah,
there's one
like-
of 2 ways you make this work. You're either super smart and you can cover your tracks, or you're so batshit that you just do the most random of crimes that nobody's. Isn't that what the whole Son of Sam guy did? Wasn't he just shooting random lovebirds in their cars around New York for a
David
summer?
Berkowitz, kind of.
That's kind of like if you're so unattached to the victim in the sense that it's like be like, we can't, other than the fact that these people are the same age and they're making out in cars or with like it's a boy girl in a car. We have no connection to any of these people at all.
I just think
and that guy's probably an idiot.
It probably was. That's what I'm trying to say. I just think we as a society, like later on with our revisionist history, I just think we put the intellect of serial killers much too high on the scale. I just think that they are crazy people. I think that some are smarter than others. You're going to have a hard time convincing me that any serial killer is like a super intellectual dude. I just don't believe it. I believe they're sociopathic.
I think there's probably areas where they're like really smart about stuff.
Sure.
I think that's a romantic thing we do. I think we do it on TV shows where the detective is like visiting the serial killer in jail and he's just like, he's just got all the books stacked up. He's just reading. I'm like, he's fucking bored. He's in jail. Like, he's not.
He's actually looking at cartoon
If
books.
he was so smart, he would have done something else for a living. Like, this is ridiculous, dude. Like,
Watch out, Elon Musk.
Yeah, like. Because they all had, like, what did Jeffrey Dahmer do for a real living? Do we know?
Just like
I'm sure
Anybody
somebody
watch this show?
I can't,
No.
like, dude,
I can't do it. Katie
my
loves
life,
this stuff. I can't
I'm
do it.
trying to manage like myself and my stress at a high enough level. I'm not going to go watch scary shit on purpose.
That is super true. I
He's
heard
trying
this
to
on
deal
a
with one
podcast.
sociopath.
Give me a nice
He can't deal with
McConaughey
all the
rom-com to calm me
sociopaths.
down at night.
I
That's
heard
what
this
I
on a
really-
podcast recently, where I was like basically like, why would you choose to live in that space for 2 hours? And that's super resonating with me. I'm like, I don't want to watch depressing weird stuff.
Look, I understand
don't
people who
wanna live.
feed off that adrenaline thing. I'm just saying,
like that.
I know what my blood pressure is when I'm just chilling and the doctor
Yeah.
says I need to relax.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go wind myself up on purpose.
I guess what I'm saying is
Watch
like
and repeat.
the
Friends.
from what I've heard, the serial killers that they say are super smart, they didn't have other smart things they did. They were just sociopaths. What I mean is like, there's not like any proof where you're like, yeah, he murdered 36 people and he was a VP at Oracle. He's really smart. Like, no, if you could be really smart and a serial killer and also demonstrate your intellect in other ways. But I feel like all the serial killers that say are smart, like worked at the post office or something. Or like you couldn't also use your genius to get ahead in life while you were murdering all these people.
Just tricking people into sitting in
It's just
cars
this
when they didn't know you were
Yeah,
coming.
it's this weird
That's it.
way we talk about serial killers, but they don't actually accomplish much.
If my son was a serial killer, he'd be the smartest serial killer who's ever lived.
That's right. It's going to have a show about him.
It's a weird flex, but I like it.
Yeah, whatever. All right, we ready to get out of here?
I think we are.
HomewardDFW.com for all your amazing property management needs.
MortgageMikeofTexas.com for your Texas and Oklahoma mortgage needs.
Armadillo.1/tour. I got that right. Hell yes. Hard shell protection. We got a video of one of us. Let's put Nick up in remembrance of when he was
Yes,
here
we
last
shall.
week.
Goodbye, Nick.
Later.
Hey, thank you for watching. We truly appreciate it. Checking out another episode of the Only Real Estate Podcast worth listening to. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead, hit that share button, hit that like button, and hit the subscribe button. Right? We're dropping more stuff on YouTube constantly. If you're on iTunes, leave us a review, please. We're really, really focused on building up those reviews so we can get more searchable content on there. And if you're on Facebook, like everyone else is, go over and search the Only Real Estate Group worth being a part of. You're going to want to go join that group. I'm telling you right now, there's so much gold in there. So go join, share us on YouTube, and leave us that iTunes review, please. Go do it right now. We'll see you on the next show.